All right, folks, it is the 28th of June on 2024. And of course, a lot of people are talking about the debates that took place yesterday, or the debate that took place yesterday between the current president and the former president. So we'll have some discussion about that. And I've got a quick question that I've got to ask Nick, because I did talk to some good friends of mine of a particular group and everything. And I need to know whether they can sue Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump since they were referenced. And yes, I am being a little bit sarcastic, and I will tell you which group I'm talking about in a minute and see if they have a case or anything along those lines. But we'll get to some serious discussions. But before we get to that, let's see what's going on in the world. Of course, Biden's disaster debate performance is looking at a lot of people in the Democratic Party potentially calling for him to withdraw from the 2024 race. And there's definitely some questions as to whether he can recover from the debate performance. But a lot of the folks that are fact checkers are just having a field day with some of the fact checking that was going on from both sides of the debate and all along those lines. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on in that space. And like I said, apparently there are some Democrats that are beginning to talk about replacing Biden for the 2024 election, even though most folks in the Democratic leadership say that that is not going to happen at all. So we'll see how this all plays out and in that way. And 7 youth hikers were taken to a Utah hospital after lightning hit the grounds near the group. So it looks like that can happen over there in Utah, and as one that has seen lightning kind of come near you, that can be a very harrowing experience, and all along those lines. And apparently, Oklahoma will require schools to incorporate the Bible in their curriculum. So this is a official announcement that came down. Oklahoma's top education officials order schools to teach the Bible. So that is something else that folks will be looking at, just like they were looking at Louisiana and how they wanted the 10 Commandments to be in all public school situations. So definitely it'll be interesting to see what goes on in that space. And videos have captured a giant sinkhole opening up in the middle of an Illinois soccer field. So it looks like the giant sinkhole has swallowed the center of a soccer field built on the top of a limestone mine. So that's something else that we're seeing as well. And the former Uvalde School District police chief has been charged with child endangerment after the shooting took place and all along those lines. So it looks like criminal indictments have been issued for 2 Uvalde, Texas first responders. So that's something else that we're seeing in the news as well. And of course, the Karen Reed trial is going on also. And we've got residents in parts of Arizona's most populous county asked to evacuate as a wildfire is spreading in that area. Let me get to some of the world issues, and then we'll get to some of the people that are joining our conversation. And all along those lines, Iranians have voted for a new president under the shadow of conflict and economic woes. So Iran has gone to the polls to elect a new president at the time of high tension. So definitely that's something that we're seeing as well. And Princess Anne has returned home from the hospital. So Princess Anne has likely been the center of attention this week following a concussion and a subsequent hospital stay. So we'll see what goes on in that space. And 2 U.S. airmen have been charged with separate sexual assaults in Japan. So Japan protests alleged sexual assault cases involving U.S. military in Okinawa. So definitely that is something that we're seeing as well, as Japan has condemned the intolerable U.S. Army after soldiers were charged with the rape of a teenager. And Rishi Sunak speaks of hurt and anger at daughters having to hear reform activists' racist slur about him. So that's something else going on. So apparently a Reform UK campaigner was caught making a racist slur. So we definitely got those kind of conversations going on as well. And France's far right looks headed for victory in the first rounds at the polls. And it looks like the high-stake French legislative election has hit torrid final stretch before the first round voting begins. So isolated Macron is bracing for what some people are calling the French voters' revenge. So definitely that is something else that is in the news. And the roof collapse at a Delhi airport kills 1 as heavy rain disrupts the Indian capital. And the Bolivian government says it has detained 4 more people in connection with a failed coup attempt. And the Bolivian president is lambasting accusations of a self-coup as lies as his supporters rally. So I guess some folks are trying to say that he engineered this coup and all along those kind of spaces. And Ursula von der Leyen is nominated to stay on in a top EU job. So we'll see if that comes to fruition or not, and all in that way. And Julian Assange's release has pro-Russian propagandists happy, apparently, and all along those lines. And Assange's plea came after warnings that the U.S. would lose an extradition fight. So, like I said, there's a lot of things that are in the news, including China G calling for bridges amid trade and diplomatic friction and all along those lines. But like I said, you're going to bring in our esteemed panel and see what they've got to say about a number of things, including the debate and all along those lines. So I've got Rick, I've got Shaquille, I've got Jatovi, and I've also got Nick over there somewhere as well. So hopefully Nick will join me, since Jatovi knows that sometimes I like to have a little humor in my releases and news and all in that space. And I heard a reference to the alley cats. That's what I was going to ask Nick, if the alley cats, because as y'all know, I'm a cat lover and all in that space. And I want to know if they can sue both Biden and Trump for even getting referenced and all along those lines, because they were definitely referenced and not referenced in the best of way, because they were saying that Trump had the morals of an alley cat. And the alley cats are going like, wait a minute, maybe we've got good morals and maybe we can sue for defamation in that space. So that's what I was thinking, and maybe that's the case. So Rick, what do you think? Do the alley cats have a case?
I don't know if they have standing, but and it was a very distressing performance. I may have punched a piece of furniture in the middle of it.
There's a lot of people that might have been punching furniture, and like I said, there's been a lot of hand wrangling and all in that kind of space, because there is already talk about the shaky debate from Biden, and there's even a conversation about the want or the need to have him off the ticket, and meeting Biden, and
Right,
to
so
get
that was
somebody
that was the initial freak out. That was right immediately after the debate. Then there was backlash to the freak out, and like you have to. I mean, you can ask two. I could ask 2 questions. One is, whose mind did it change, and 2 is, who do you replace Biden with? Nobody wants Newsom, because he's a California slickster, and Gretchen Whitmer. You've got Kathy Hochul, who, people kind of know him, but no, they're not going to pull as many votes as Biden does. Anyway, what was that? I was thinking, I'm Biden. I forgot like my second point, but
well,
Rick, why are you
okay?
Why are you surprised? Why are you guys surprised? We went over this months ago. Okay, my former career, I was an estate planning attorney, and when people hit 80, they go into mental decline. I mean, almost every one of them at a certain point in time. And usually 80, it starts heading down the pikeway.
Yeah, but was this mental decline, or was this a guy with a cold versus a guy like...
He doesn't have a cold. He has an old, not a cold. I don't know what
there are reports that he did have a cold.
And it's old, not cold. He's getting old.
Well, hold on a second. Hold on a second.
And right, I said, Democrats, you need to bring up people from your B team, but you don't have a B team because you only have one person and you don't develop your young people. So you're going to get what you deserve, which is Donald Trump. That's who you voted for.
Well, speaking of Donald Trump, hold on a second. Speaking of Donald Trump,
let Jatovi go, because I want to say something, but he had his hand up before I did. So
Jatovi may actually want to say something different about his support for.
I'm sure Jatovi will spin it about how great Biden's performance really was. But yeah,
oh gosh.
Jatovi, any comments?
I mean, I was just waiting for my turn, since those two evidently knew what I was going to say without even knowing what I was going to say. But truthfully speaking, yes, in that debate last night, Biden was horrible. Biden was completely bad. He confirmed every ounce of fear that a lot of people had towards him. because everybody felt that he was incognito. He just as what Rick did when Rick lost his train of thought. When you're 80 and you do that, yes, it looks like you're in complete mental decline. Yet Nick never said anything about Rick being in mental decline. So yes, Biden did completely horrible. However, what Biden did that was good was he stayed, I mean, cold or no cold, it doesn't matter about that. Nobody knew about that until the end. No, everything that he did confirmed everybody's bias about Biden. And yes, he did turn people against him because everybody's been hearing about how in mental decline he is. And so that's what they're going to believe in because based off of that debate. So yeah, he did extremely bad. The one thing that he did that was good was that he did actually talk about policy. He did actually talk about things that were going to be that he wanted to do. Even in the midst of his ramblings and mumblings and sounding pretty bad, he did do that. But that's not going to be what people hear, people see, because again, he had a terrible debate showing. And if you do it to the flip side, in terms of an analysis on Trump sounded strong. Trump sounded powerful. But the problem Trump did is the fact that everything Trump said was a lie. And that was a real problem with what he did. However, because of the fact that you had to contrast that with what Biden sounded like, because Biden sounded feckless, Biden sounded weak, Biden sounded horrible. Trump sounded strong, even though he lied about everything and didn't have any policy. So everybody, and it's been consensus across the board on every polling right now, is that Trump won the debate, which again, because he sounded strong, that's what it sounded like. So you're going to right now, this debate didn't really shift anything. It did harm Biden's campaign and Biden's chances. And it would be smart we talked about it before, but truthfully, Nick, and it goes back to that tradition that they stuck in, is the fact that you don't really replace an incumbent. And every group, GOP or Republican Party and the Democrat Party, neither challenges the incumbent. Everybody lets the incumbent ride. But this right here might be the 1 year that they do replace the incumbent. And yes, it's going to be a challenge to figure out who would be the best incumbent or who would be the best to replace Biden. Because at this moment, honestly, and right after the debate, truthfully, both parties were saying we need to find somebody else. But because there's so much
Republicans were saying they need someone else.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were, Shaq. Regardless, you laughing, and this is why you're in Australia and don't really know.
Right, okay, yeah, because our version of CNN and Fox and MSNBC is different to your version.
I'm talking about every single outlet, even the Republicans afterwards. But again, Mama's boy, you got to listen. So basically, what it is that, because of the outrage and the Republicans latched on to the Democrats because that's what really tanked Biden's campaign, and they're going to have to replace him before the convention and figure out who's going to be there. But that is your balanced approach.
That's all you can.
Or they'll replace him after the convention with
question as well. But I did have a question for everybody here, which is, and Jacoby kind of alluded to it, because I have been reading the fact checkers, and they are giving both of them Fs. As a matter of fact, I was reading a debate coach, and they said that if he was grading them, he would grade both of them an F. And a lot of that was around the facts that both of them were misconstruing. I'm not going to put it just on Trump, even though Trump might have done a worse job and everything. But how much? Because I think that probably the best job that anybody had this last couple of days is fact checker, because they're having a field day finding all of the quotes that were taken out of context, taken totally lies, whatever you want to call them, but they were definitely having a field day, and they'll be having a field day.
I went through the fact checking, and Trump said 4 times as many lies and misstatements as Biden did. CNN, when they fact checked him, they had him saying 28 lies and misstatements.
That's not surprising. He does it all the time. I mean,
that's not ideal either. I mean,
Yeah,
well, this is who you voted for.
And that's the thing, is that you have one who's lying all the time, and then you have one who's an old well-meaning grandpa who's not there all the time. So that's our choice right now. And I think, and that's why at the end of the debate, and honestly, it shifted more now, but at the end of the debate, both parties were legitimately, oh crap.
So you got a choice between Otis and Barney?
The Democrats.
Yes, yeah, and that's what everybody latched onto. So therefore, Trump is now riding high because everything is focused on Biden, because he had the most to overcome. And now, because the Democrat Party at the beginning were, okay, we're all in on Biden. We're going to make it happen. Even though he's old, we can overcome this. We can overcome this. And then when the debate happened, he put out a very poor showing. No matter how much you love Biden, no matter how much you hate Biden, no matter how much you beef Biden up, he put out a poor performance. And so because of that, yeah, the Democrat Party right now, yes, just like Nick right now, Nick, you're right. The Democrat Party is panicking because really there's no plan B. And there couldn't be a plan B because they fell into the tradition trap where nobody, Republican or Democrat, when there's an incumbent, you don't replace the incumbent. And they fell into that old tradition.
The last time an incumbent didn't run when they could was LBJ in 1968, and that led to defeat for his party and the rise of Nixon. The CNN did a flash poll last night, and 80% of viewers polled said that the debate did not change their mind. So it's too soon to see, how badly it hurt Biden. Also, there's another debate scheduled for September. If I were Trump, I would drop out of that debate because it can only hurt him.
Exactly. And the whole world.
That's not entirely true. So I'll start with Trump because I know that you guys, if I say anything about Biden, you guys will go off. So let me just start with Trump. So I think Trump started off pretty well. He was sort of confident. He spoke a lot in a much more measured way. Towards the end, now I know people that are working with Trump, and they've actually said to me that they've told Trump very clearly, and he's been told by people all over the country, we need you to be more presidential. No more mean tweets. Don't get nasty. They also said to him, if Biden looks old and feeble, don't go at him too hard, because if you do, you're going to look like you're bullying an old man. So I think that Trump kept it together pretty well for most of the debate. Towards the end, he started to slip back into his old sort of behavior, but it was still pretty restrained, I thought. So that indicates to me, or that shows me, that Trump's listening to the advice that's being given, and he's trying to get there. There were a few times that I was a little disappointed, I have to say, in Trump's performance. He would not answer the question about childcare. I think neither would he answer the question about fentanyl and drug overdoses. And to me, it seemed like he didn't have an answer, and he can't just say, look, I don't know yet what I'm going to do. So he just didn't answer, and the host actually brought it up to him a couple of times. So I thought his answers there were very, very weak. The big one was that he was asked a question about how you're going to go on the biggest mass deportation campaign that America's ever seen. Well, he's the one who's been going around saying that. So being asked the question, you would think that he would have some kind of answer, and he didn't. So I thought that he was a bit weak on a few different points.
Hey, Shakir, just really quickly before you continue, do you think that he answered the question? Because the other points that were part of the debate were Ukraine, and I know you do a lot of international stuff, as well as Israel. So do you think that he answered that question? Because I felt that he kind of like dodged those questions as well. But I don't, like I said,
I think he dodged them, but he dodged them. He dodged them tactfully, I thought, by basically putting the blame for it all on Biden, and then saying that he'd have to have a look at it, and there's various things that he can do. So I thought that was, I actually thought that was reasonable. I wouldn't give him a hard time about that. As far as the other stuff that people say are lies, the thing is that he's not saying anything new. These are the same things that he's been saying already. So it's not like I don't think that he's going to lose any supporters because of it, because he's just saying the same stuff that he's been saying at his rallies, he's been saying in interviews, etc. I thought he handled January 6th reasonably well. When he was asked the question that was, in relation to calling service people losers and suckers, I thought, again, his answer there was pretty good. Now, I'll come across to Biden. I thought Biden was doing okay, right? He stumbled in the opening minutes, but he seemed to recover. He seemed to be getting a bit stronger. And then they had that break, and then after that break, he just sort of seemed to collapse, I thought. It's not just what he was saying. You know, the thing that, with debates, I think, what do they say? That you can turn the screen off and listen to the sound, or turn the sound off and listen to and just watch the screen and see what you think. I think on both of those fronts, Biden lost. Now, I was speaking to bookmakers at the time, and there were tens of millions of dollars coming in behind Donald Trump after that debate. At the moment, Joe Biden has been priced at less than a 20% chance of winning the election. So that's by the international betting markets. So I think the idea that, because it moved so dramatically during the debate and after the debate, I think the idea that the debate has had no impact, I don't think that that's the case. I think swing voters are unlikely to go for Biden at this point. But it also shows something that's very important. The White House, KGB, and the media have all been telling everybody that what we're seeing with our eyes across the whole world, that Joe Biden's old, isn't true. They're telling us that, hey, he's this really energetic person behind closed doors. His staff, struggle to keep up with him. He outpaces 20-year-olds. And, those people who are, on the right, people in the center, and just people in general, I think, are going, well, if that's true, then why don't we see it in real life? Then they try to say that a lot of these feeble moments that we're seeing are cheap fakes. Well, we've all seen it now. We've all seen it with our own eyes, and he had a week to prepare. So the idea that we've been lied to, I think, is offensive to a lot of people. I think Democrats have lost a lot of credibility, and the media has lost a lot of credibility, because they've tried to convince us of something that we can see with our own eyes, that we've been able to see for years. Now, if they had have handled that better, then Biden's performance wouldn't have been as eyebrow-raising. If you have a look at, the best I can do here as an example is Fetterman. Fetterman came out and said, look, I had a stroke. I need some help here. I need to have, I need to be able to read some of the questions because I can't hear properly and stuff like that. And you know what? Voters accepted that. He certainly didn't put on a great performance as far as the debate was concerned, but he still won. In this case, the media and Democrats have been telling us that Biden is great. Just like the last two things, if I can, I know Jatovian and Rick want to respond. Kamala Harris did her very best to try to cover this. And, all she could do was then try to talk about policy, and it just didn't work. It just fell flat. And Anderson Cooper, kept coming at her, and she just could not overcome what everybody else was saying. MSNBC took a few hours before they were trying so hard to work out how to spin it. But, a few hours later, they talked about how incumbent presidents' first debates are always terrible. But, this is a different situation. In the aftermath of this, Democrats, Van Jones was almost in tears.
Yeah, he was.
So, saying, look, I know this is a man that loves his country, but this was a distressing performance. The reality is Joe Biden has got absolutely no shot of winning this election. Whether or not he is replaced, that's a subject that, of debate, and we'll only know, when the DNC rolls around. But look, it was a terrible performance. It shows that he's old. Everyone's been saying he's old. And as far as Trump's concerned, whilst Trump, yes, might have waffled a bit, and whilst they did get into a bit of a tit-a-tat about golf handicaps and things like that in the middle of it.
That was so annoying. Golf handicaps.
But to be fair, Biden sort of started that one. Look, I think that Biden actually a
No,
couple
I'm
of
not
times
saying Biden shouldn't have. That's ridiculous.
he shouldn't have.
Old men
But
arguing.
Biden tried to get under his skin a couple of times, and there was actually a couple of times where Trump had what I thought were like gentle digs at him. He didn't go after him hard on Hunter Biden, which I thought was absolutely appropriate. There was a moment there where he actually called Joe Biden Brandon, which I thought was a good little dig. I really think that those people who have got some concerns about Trump being too caustic should be impressed with today's performance, because he held back a lot, and you could see that he was holding back a lot. I think that Trump would have won over a lot of people that were undecided, a lot of people who were independent, and I think that there's a lot of people who are Democrats who are going to say, you know what, I'm not voting for Biden, who have lost trust in him. And I'll just lastly say, I have got friends who are Democrats all over the United States. My phone was going off with them saying how disappointed they were. They're not going to vote for him. They're going to switch to Trump. And as for me not being American and being a little mummy's boy, as Toby calls me, I was very interested because the media across the world was all calling this out. It wasn't just left and right media in the United States, because I was flicking through that. CNN, MSNBC, and Fox I actually have on my cable TV. But we also have Australian media. We also have UK media. You guys know that I'm British. I was speaking to people in Switzerland, France, Germany, Sweden, who were telling me what's being shown over there. They're all calling it the same way, that Biden's gone. And then I actually got friends of mine. And then I've actually got friends of mine that are currently over in South Korea and Japan, and non-English speaking channels were also calling it the same way. I spoke to friends of mine in Dubai. I spoke to friends of mine across the Middle East. I spoke to friends of mine in Africa. So I think the media across the world is calling this the same way. And honestly, I can't see it. Of course, Biden still got a shot. Of course, Democrats still have a shot. But I think this is the end of it for Biden.
Hey, Shaquille, just really quickly, I did see everybody's hands, and I did want to hear from Sasha as well. I am not, and nobody, I'm not going to say anything that surprises people. I'm not necessarily a fan of Trump, but I will give Trump credit for something, because I did think that it was a good, gentle dig, as you were saying, Shaquille, when he made that comment about, because it was one of those stumbling moments when he basically said, I don't know what he said. I don't know that anybody knows what he said, and everything along those lines. So I did think that was one of those digs that actually was an effective dig.
But he didn't go any further with it, right? It was enough to say it once and leave it alone. But, you know, at the very beginning of that debate, like Trump didn't have his jacket buttoned up. I know that sounds like it's a really minor thing, but I actually thought that he should have, because I think Biden presented better on that. He just looked a little bit more presidential. Trump sort of stumbled out like a bloody... like a cowboy or something. But you know, they're not shaking hands at the beginning or at the end. Just like it looks petty, and then when the camera zoomed out, you just see two angry old men that hate each other. And I just thought, oh, America, I'm so sorry, poor America. Like, what are you guys doing? So I thought that was pretty bad. But also, see, we got some of the feed that happened after your show's finished. So we actually saw Jill Biden come out on stage and help Joe Biden off the stage. And to me, I looked at that and just went, oh, that's just a perfect ending. Now, I was speaking to several of my friends in America, and they were like, what are you talking about? When did Jill Biden come up on the stage? Like, we never saw that. That was never cut. That was never shown on our feeds. And I was like, yeah, she came up. Now, also, Trump didn't go and shake Jake Tapper's hands or Dana's hand. He just walked off the stage, whereas Joe Biden did. Now, I thought that Trump should have done that, because he has done that in previous debates. But yeah, Jill Biden certainly did come up and escort him up the stage.
Well,
so
I'm not surprised at that, because they have some history
coming up
with
after
Jack
the
Taper and Trump.
Well, Trump's family didn't, Rick. Trump's family didn't come up.
Yeah, Trump's family didn't even show up.
That's right, because what they had agreed on before, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, was that the family members weren't going to be there. And then all of a sudden, Jill Biden came up and actually helped him to come off the stage. So, again, it's more of a show of, like, Obama the other day and Gavin Newsom just before the debate said, oh, it's all just, you guys are just exaggerating things about Obama helping Joe Biden come off the stage. And then we see it again with Jill Biden. I think media and the Democrats credibility is shot at this point.
There was a Trump
So I don't think there's a replacement for Biden who has as good a chance, no matter how lousy Biden's chance is at this point, of being elected. But I don't know at this point that you can fire Biden, but certainly people on his campaign staff, you need to get rid of some of those people. He had a team prepping him for this, and they let him get up there like that and do what he did. And what the fuck happened? You know, I mean,
but to be fair, he actually had a couple of really good lines. I'll give you an example. He was asked about inflation. Now, they knew that he was going to be asked about inflation. And he gave a brilliant response. Well, it doesn't matter whether I agree with it or not. He gave an absolutely brilliant response. He said, inflation was nothing when I became the president because the economy was on its back. And I thought, wow, that's a really powerful response. And then 5 seconds later, he just wandered off somewhere else, and it totally destroyed how good that answer was.
But just to point out again, like I said, the problem is, and Shaq, the whole world put up all the, I pointed out earlier about how the world saw it, which was true. It was a very poor showing for Biden. And I don't think this would be like the Fetterman opportunity, because Fetterman, that whole thing was more localized and not less global. And in terms of all the media attention that'll go to it. So the strength and the idea of strength that Trump was able to show in that actual debate is what people latched on to, because Trump really did, as Rick pointed out, the 14 times lying more so than Biden and the fact checkers and all that other stuff. People are able to overlook those things because that is truthfully, it's baked in. We know who these two people are. It's just that seeing Biden the way that he was and the way that he was on that stage during that debate really, really hurt him badly. Even though, during the you talked about the child care issue that Trump wandered off, and during towards the end of the debate, which nobody really saw, because most of the people saw the first 30 minutes and then turned off because it looked poorly. They saw a strong person and they saw a really weak person who seemed to meander and go into some other things. But during the end of it is when he started prodding Trump, and Trump started really going at Biden a little bit more. Yes, he was staying still composed per se, but he was attacking him a little bit more because all of his answers began to be, well, they're letting millions of people to come in and take your jobs. Biden is such a horrible person, and we had the greatest this and the greatest that, and he never really answered the question.
But that's standard Trump, right? That's standard Trump.
But in that same answer with the child care issue, because Trump had wandered off, Biden wandered for about 40 seconds to a minute, and then came back to, well, we're gonna try these child tax credits. We're gonna try and extend those, and he actually gave a policy. And that's the way he did. But the problem is when you sound really, really old, and when your facial expressions, even when you're not answering, look really old, but then you get off stage and then go to a rally, and then you're all this and that.
Because he was in a rally here in North Carolina.
But that's the whole point, right? The White House says he's got a cold. And then 10 minutes later, he's going talking to this rally, and
exactly.
Why has he got music?
I don't know who has music.
I didn't know.
All of a sudden, he's extremely energetic. It makes no sense. Let's Sasha have a go.
Yeah, Sasha.
I hope everybody enjoying themselves. So that was a disaster for Biden. Obviously, you cannot talk about it in any other way. But I think there was a wisdom of Democrats to call this debate so early in a game. So in case of disaster, as of what happened yesterday, they have a chance to regroup, to appoint a new leader. I'm not so sure how the United States works technically. Biden, for example, he has to resign. If he resigns, then Kamala Harris becoming president. So how you put a new person as a front runner for Democrats. I'm not clear on that, but something has to be done. Biden, it's not even that, let's imagine that Biden still will win against Trump, because even the bookies have 20%. It's not 2%, it's 20%. Okay. And so
Sasha, come on, give it up. Give it up, Sasha. Come on.
No, I'm not.
How often are they wrong?
No,
How often are they wrong? Seriously.
Shaquille, thank you very much for your comment. I'm not suggesting that Biden will win against Trump. I'm not. What I'm suggesting is that even if he will win, because mathematically he has chances, a small but still has, this will be a disgrace for Democrats and for the United States for the next 4 more years. And yesterday's debates clearly showed that that cannot be allowed. Even the little 20% that, according to bookies, he still has a chance to win, even that has to be eliminated. The man who cannot walk, who cannot talk, who cannot do anything, regardless of his policies and his well-meaning, and he's a good husband, a great father, and whatever. It just doesn't cut it, because there are a lot of good fathers and good people in the United States and elsewhere. That's not enough. It's not there. And frankly, as I said yesterday on the afternoon show, I've said that if Biden would do performance on the level of his State of the Union address, then he has a fighting chance for sure. But that didn't happen. And if you remember his debates 4 years ago with Donald Trump, Biden was vigorous and he was quick on his feet, and he did quite well. But now, 4 years later, you know what? Unfortunately, I must admit, we all, especially from chess world, the grandmasters are preparing all their lines and openings, and they master their style, and they continue to improve until such time that they are all losing to one unbeatable opponent, and the name of that opponent is time. You cannot fight that. And
the thing that I find really fascinating about that debate structure was why they, like things like that your microphone was going to be muted. That's Trump's weak spot. So like he had no choice, because he started to slip a couple of times, and of course his mic was off, so he stopped. So like you want to show him as having bad temperament. What the whole structure of that debate actually, in my opinion, helped Trump immensely. I want to say that there was some criticism of CNN and especially Jake Tapper. I thought they did a very good job. I thought that they were reasonably impartial. When Jake Tapper asked a question about January 6th, he worded it very, very well. He worded it in a way that wasn't like it was your fault, but that people can consider this to be, because of things that you said, how do you respond, etc. Like they came at Trump pretty hard a couple of times, and Trump didn't attack them in response. He just came out and answered the questions. I thought that he did a good job. Here's what the media is saying at the moment. The suggestions are that either Biden's going to be replaced by someone like Gavin Newsom, or that maybe they could replace him with Hillary. Or the other one that I heard was what we should do is make Hillary the VP so that everyone knows the deal, that we're not replacing Biden and Hillary will just come into that slot later. I don't think that that's realistic, but it shows to me Democrats are in disarray. They don't know what to do. It was a terrible performance, and I think that Democrats just know that whatever they do from here to November, look, things can always change, but I think it's done. If you look at the midterm debates, if you look at the last lot of debates, most people didn't watch the second debate because they'd already seen Trump's performance in the first one. I think at this point the damage that's being done is
We've got a
Very
Democrat
good.
here, and I definitely want to hear from Steve. But the other thing that I was going to add really quickly, because I'd love to hear people's thoughts around this, is I did feel that a couple of times he deflected because there was an issue that he kept kind of come back to. And I know that one of the criticisms of the Democrats in the past has been when they try to create a boogeyman attitude. And I felt that that's what he kept doing Trump with the immigration, because every time I turned around, every answer came back to immigration. So that's a mistake that I think that Trump made, because he kept bringing it back to the immigration issue.
I just got back. I was at the airport. I got to leave to pick up my son, but I was there. I got back at 4 a.m. I met the president. I welcomed him to Raleigh-Durham Airport and spent about 20 minutes with him after, with the mayor of Durham and Leo Williams. And it was I ended up not going to the rally today. I got invited to the photo line, but I was so dejected. And believe it or not, I will go on the limb to say before I leave, I'm going to do my analysis on Monday, but Joe Biden cannot win this election. And what I think needs to happen is that the Democratic Party has to find another candidate. They have until August. I was talking to Senator Chaudhary today, one of my friends who's the minority whip, and there's two things: the ability to govern, which is an issue. And after last night and after seeing the president in person, I do not think that he's capable of governing the country anymore. And it's hard for me to say. Everyone knows how much I support and like Biden and the Biden family. So there's two ways it can happen. They can invoke the 25th, make the vice president the acting president. So someone's going to have a tough conversation with the president over the weekend or on Monday. If that's not the case, then they just keep him in there until the convention, and then they nominate someone else. Now, I've heard today from some inside sources, I've heard Governor Roy Cooper from North Carolina is a top choice. I've heard Gavin Newsom from California, Raphael Warnock from Georgia, Whitmire from Michigan. So anyway, I don't know, guys, but right now, I'll end with this. If the game doesn't change, Donald Trump will become the 47th president.
Donald Trump.
He'll win.
Steve, let me just say, Warnock has a 0%. Is there less than 0%? Is there a negative percent? There's no way that Raphael Warnock.
Sorry, Jacoby, go, and then I've got to run. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, everything you said, Steve, I think is spot on. And I think that's where a lot of Democrats are sitting at this moment now, is that, yes, they love the Biden family, but yes, they believe that he needs to go. And honestly, I mean, another name that I've heard floated, Steve, I don't know, Hakeem Jeffries was another name that I'd heard floated out there. And yes, at some point, somebody has to step in. Somebody needs to talk to the Biden family, because Biden, right now, I heard this morning that they are actually surrounding themselves saying it's way too early to talk about replacing him. But no, I think it is time, because what was shown last night has already pushed everybody away from Biden, and nobody's truthfully supporting him as much as they should have been. So honestly, yeah, it's time to replace him. It would be nice to, at the convention, or at least start putting people's names truthfully out there that, hey, Gretchen Whitmire, I think, would be great to replace him, because she's done a great job in Michigan, and because of her notoriety and honestly that female vote, because honestly the female vote is going to carry a lot of weight in this election, especially due to Roe v. Wade, and especially due to the crazy things that are going. The abortion debate is hugely weighing heavily on everyone in the country. So I think Gretchen Whitmire, because of the way that she's handled stuff in Michigan and being the female vote and handling the abortion topic, she'd be a good replacement at this moment.
I think Gavin Newsom has the look and feel. Forget about policy. Yeah. Obviously, I don't agree with him on policy. I think of anybody that's been brought up, he's got the most appeal. He's probably the best shot they've got. However, if I were him, I wouldn't want to do it for the reasons that I said before. The Democrats and the media have a massive credibility problem. And the fact that they're even talking about, we need to have a conversation with the Bidens, or we need to look at potentially replacing them. This is what Republicans have been saying about him for years. And what Republicans have been told is, oh, you're spinning things, you're twisting things, it's not really true, et cetera, et cetera. The thing is that I think a lot of rational people who are not partisan have looked at that and gone, no, like he looks really old, and they've kept being told, no, don't believe your lying eyes. So I really think that the Democrats have got are in a bad position. And if I were Gavin Newsom, I wouldn't do this, because I think Gavin Newsom has a real shot in 2028. There's no way, if I were him, that I would take that chance now against Trump.
Hey, Shaquille, just really quickly.
Just a real quick retort about the credibility problem. We cannot stress or push the credibility thing, and people cannot use that with Trump being the head of the ticket, because it's tougher to say that you have a credibility problem when the head of the ticket is not really credible in terms of truth telling himself. So that's the tough thing with the credibility thing. So I don't know if that would be other things that he's faced, but I don't think the credibility piece floats.
So let me address specifically that. I think that Trump's base doesn't care or will overlook things that the rest of us will see, right? We'll see that Trump gets the things. The thing is that Trump gets called out on that by big media. Biden hasn't been called out on that very much. And again, this is not just in America, but also around the world. And listening to KJP and all these sorts of things.
I'll talk to you Monday to come to this conversation. Let's pray for the Biden family, pray for the United States, and God will help us all. I hope there's not a Donald Trump back in the White House. But right now,
I don't see any other choice, I'm afraid. But that's the thing. But that's the thing, Jacoby. Regardless of whether or not you agree or don't agree with the credibility issue, I think that if the Democrats were to replace Biden, it's a concession that the things that they've been denying is happening for the last several years is actually happening. And if I were Gavin Newsom, I would sit there and say, look, I'm way more likable than Ron DeSantis. Now, in 4 years, we can't predict who's going to be there. But obviously, if Trump wins, somebody has to replace him in 2028. If I were Gavin Newsom, I would say, why do I want to run now? Why don't I run next time round?
No, that makes a lot of sense.
I've been waiting. So the State of the Union address was 3.5 months ago, and Biden looked fine. He looked energetic. What happened in 3.5 months? Is it the format? And does he have a chance to look? He'll be giving a speech if he's the nominee in 2 months at the Democratic National Convention, which won't have the same viewership. But
if we just heard Steve correctly, he was very energetic here in Raleigh and everything, because it seems like he was.
So what happened last night against?
Can I tell you? I think many of us have older relatives that are suffering from dementia or early stage Alzheimer's and things like that, or some other kind of cognitive decline, and we all know about the sort of sunsetting, so that people are more awake and vibrant in the morning. I don't know. I'm not saying that that's what's happened to you, but that's what it looks like. It just looks like he's old. That's the thing. I'm not saying he's a bad person. He just looks like he's old.
Just to answer your
point, he had a bad day. I mean, Senator Britt's response to the State of the Union was absolutely disgraceful. Okay, she looks like a psycho ex-girlfriend is what she looked like in that response. But I thought Biden did really well there. But as Sasha says, we've all been saying if he came out like that on the debate today or yesterday for you guys, sure, it would have gone somewhere. But he didn't. Something just went dramatically wrong.
This is sorry. This is why I disagree with you on the fact what you're saying that the Democratic left-wing media they knew about his state of health and they were lying for 4 years and covering for 4 years or so on. Why would they cover if State of the Union address 3.5 months ago, and last year the same thing? It was just as good. So there was nothing to paint or to hide or anything. That what we saw real Biden during this.
Sasha, Republicans have been asking for a release of the interview tapes in relation to those documents that were kept in his garage. And the special prosecutor said, we're not going to prosecute him because he's going to come across as a forgetful old man. Republicans said, why don't we release the tapes? They've also asked Merrick Garland to release the tapes. The left-wing media has spun that and said it's not because he's feeble, it's because they don't want to injure the ability for the DOJ to get witness statements in the future.
No,
At every step of the way, the people on the right, I'm not talking about me, I'm not saying this is my opinion. I'm saying the people on the right feel as though they have been lied to. And what Republican friends of mine have said to me today, yesterday for you guys, they've all said to me, finally now we can have a conversation with Democrats. Finally now the Democrats aren't going to gaslight us into believing that he's actually secretly some energetic, fantastic person, but we can actually have proper conversations. And so I think, again, that the damage is so bad that I really can't see it being recoverable, whether they run him or they don't run him. I just can't see them recovering from this. Go for it.
Okay, just to point out a couple of things. What you're saying about, okay, now we can have our conversation, that was never going to happen. Because number one, Trump was the one that tanked the immigration bill, and now they're complaining, well, Biden's trying to run like executive orders. Well, if you wanted to have a conversation about the immigration, you wouldn't have argued that, okay, well, it's a problem. Now it's not a problem. Oh, now you're trying to be a dictator. They were never going to have a legitimate discussion, the individuals that you're talking about. Never was going to happen. In terms of credibility, again, Trump lies all the time. So we got to be able to admit that. That is an honest thing. And then going back to answering Rick's question. Rick, the thing is, it doesn't matter because the last thing people saw is what they saw on stage. And then on top of that, we've talked about it ad nauseum already. The format was a gamble. The format was set up to where it's just having a conversation with two people, with 4 people in a room, and they were talking about the debate. It was nothing energetic. If you saw after the actual, when Biden went to the rally, he was a lot more energetic. He was a little bit more outspoken because there were people there and he was having to project.
Because
of that fact that the way that the format was, he was going to use his calm voice and so on and so forth and blah, blah, blah. And that is a different view, and it doesn't look as strong as it does when you're in front of people. Hence the reason why going to the tapes that Shaq is trying to say, well, they needed it. They didn't need it. The only reason they were grabbing it was based on what people saw last night, because the conversation that Biden was going to have in person with one individual is not going to look energetic. He's an old man and it's going to look old. So all they wanted it for was campaign ads. It had nothing to do because they had all the information already there. There was nothing other than campaign ads, and that's what's going to come out of this.
The Republicans would argue something different to that.
So
the Republicans have argued something different to that. The Republicans have argued
so the
that they
Republicans
want to
are
take.
time out, Shaq.
No. Wait a second.
Let us be honest in this conversation.
Okay, so let me respond to you.
Republicans were going to use that as an ad.
Okay, you've said that, so let me respond to you.
Let me finish.
Okay, you've said that. Let me respond to it, Toby. Let me respond to it.
They were not going to say they were going to use.
Let me respond to it.
Hey,
let me respond to it.
All right, come on, everybody.
How sensitive are you? Just let me respond to it. You say that they were going to use it as for campaign ads. Maybe they were. What the Republicans are saying, and again, not me. I'm not saying this.
I already know
what
that.
the Republicans were saying
on TV is that they wanted to see what he looked like. We got that.
What the Republicans were saying, that they wanted to hear the tapes because they wanted to know what the justification was for not prosecuting him. So, you know, I think it's a difficult position, but what you said to me is a counter to me saying that my friends who are Republicans are saying to me that they can finally have conversations. Jacoby, they can't have conversations with everybody, okay? Certainly, it's going to be very difficult for a Republican to have a rational conversation with you because you are already in your silo. But I think that there's a lot of conversations happening, and I've heard that from my Democrat friends and from my Republican friends that there's a lot more talk about some real issues here, and there's a lot less gaslighting going on. Rick.
So when it was weird when Biden came out, his voice was soft and raspy, and he was talking a mile a minute like he had all these facts he had to get out. And he had command of the facts. What he didn't have was command of always being able to pull up the appropriate word and just like getting through a sentence. So it's weird. He spit out a ton of facts. He was much more accurate than Trump was. So it's like he still knows stuff, but just getting sentences out of him was a bitch.
Because he's
Well, and
Just
that's-
really quick,
your
just really quick, because I
quarterback
know we're
told who's going to be your replacement quarterback. See, this is the problem that we've gone over months ago, is that the Democratic Party does not have a backup quarterback. Now, the best backup quarterback looks to be Gavin Newsom, and they got to brush this guy off, whether he likes it or not, and stick his butt front and center. Because if he does come in, now you actually have a young person or a younger person that may have some energy and may be able to beat Trump in a debate.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be the guy.
Honestly,
What
Nick, what you're
Republicans,
saying is so
what
true.
Republicans should be doing today, what Republicans should be doing today is giving Biden a massive surge in donations. And what Republicans should be doing in the media is actually running cover for Biden. No, seriously, they should
You're
run
right.
cover for Biden, because why would you, if you're the Republicans right now, if you're the Trump campaign right now, you do not want Biden gone. You want
No, you
Biden there, because if
And-
Biden's there, you're going straight into the White House, right?
And honestly, that is
So,
both.
they've actually got to, and the way that I've been describing it, there's a credibility problem with the media and for the Dems. They've got to try and force the issue where they say they basically say, if the Dems replace him, you know they've been lying to you. If they run a campaign like that to keep Biden there, Trump's just got to look. It's 4 months away. We know that there's plenty of time for things to change and things to go wrong. But as it stands right now, if you're a Republican, you want Biden to be the Democrat on the ticket.
So yes, they need. If the Republicans want to win, they need to push Biden as much as they can. They They cannot go to a credibility issue. If they want to win, they just need to fund his campaign and keep saying, okay, or pushing him out there. Don't go into the credibility thing, because just as, again, it would harken back and go back to Trump's flaws. And then, Nick, you're right. Honestly, again, that's why Gretchen Whitmire would be a great choice, because of the women's vote plus the abortion thing being a big thing on the ticket.
But the
Gavin
women
He's
Newsom,
not well known enough, right, Toby?
Gavin Newsom,
You're running to Gretchen,
I
but
was
the
going to
thing
finish.
is,
Gavin
you're not
Newsom,
gonna
Gavin Newsom, yes,
could win.
would be a great one, because people know him and people see him as a young one. But again, neither one of the people on that stage last night was a good choice.
That's true.
The Republicans
Very
didn't
good.
like theirs, and the Democrats hated theirs. So the thing is, again, had there been any other person for the Republican Party, it would have been wiped the floor. It would have been even worse. Had there been anybody else besides Biden against the Republican Party, they would have wiped the floor with Donald. They would
Well, not necessarily, but let me just tell you, this is what I pick up, baby. This is what I pick up. The Republicans may have, I don't agree with you, but the Republicans may have disliked Trump, but it wasn't just Democrats that hated Biden. Everybody across the world.
Nobody liked either one, and that's the point.
There's a lot of double haters. I would agree with you.
So I don't mean haters in hate him personally. I mean hated his performance.
He's just
Like
an old man.
people,
Nobody-
there is live footage. There's live footage of people watching this in Europe who they were sitting there with their hands like this, just going, "Oh my God!" They were embarrassed for you guys. They were embarrassed
the
for
reason
America.
everybody was so sad about what Biden showed is because that was going to be their choice. Republicans and Democrats, because they don't really like Trump either. So the point being, any other candidate on either side, especially if they were young, was going to wipe the floor with either candidate that was up there. And that's the point. And honestly, right now, if the Democrat Party brings in a Gavin Newsom, even a Gretchen Whitmire, or anybody else that they had said earlier, it would end up winning. So there is an opportunity. But right now, I mean, especially coming off of this debate, there is an opportunity. But until Biden steps down, there's not going to be anything. And Trump is
I know you're disappointed. I know you're disappointed, buddy, but you've got to be realistic. You
That
guys
is
are
the
gone.
most realistic
You
thing.
guys are gone, and you know it. I think deep down,
Chad,
you
I
know it.
don't
You may not
think-
want to admit
Chad,
it.
you're not
You may not
listening.
want to admit it, but take a breath.
No,
You guys
you're
are
not
done.
listening.
Oh,
That
yeah,
was
I'm
a
listening.
balance
We're gonna
I'm
have to
listening.
because that is
reconvene at
based on
another
the analysis
time.
from what we saw last night.
We're
I
at
know
the
you
hour.
keep saying what Trump is going to win, but no, it's a balanced look. Anybody, any other person,
That
any other
balance, this
candidate.
one. Joe Biden, you're out, and so are we. Goodbye.